Hi, and welcome to Upgraded Biology. My name is Dr. Tammy Moralia, and I'm your host. Upgraded Biology is the outcome of 20 years of practicing functional medicine and specializing in hormones. This podcast is where we will present all the information and tools I've learned and continue to learn on how to harmonize and optimize all aspects of your health. Hello, everybody. And yet again, here we are talking about how to help you thrive. You know, when I was practicing regular traditional family medicine, my patients would come to me over and over again and they said, I don't feel great. You know, they lost the joy. They don't laugh. They don't sing. They're tired, maybe a little more weight than they would have. And they're not sick, but they're not thriving. And what we're going to talk about today and every day are tools that you can be the CEO of your own health, and you have the means to get thriving back into your life. And today I am so excited because this couldn't be more appropriate for what's going on in the world today. I am so excited. We have Rhonda Britten, an Emmy Award winner, repeat Oprah guest, master coach. She has changed lives in over 600 episodes of reality TV. She's the author of 4 best-selling books, including her seminal work, Fearless Living. And pay attention to that word fear, because we're going to dive deep into that today. And she's the founder of the Fearless Living Institute, home of the Ivy League of life coaching training. She's been named America's favorite life coach, and she brings the neuroscience of fear down to earth, giving you a path out of not being good enough using the wheels technology she developed that saved her own life. Thank you so much, Rhonda. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you
How's your
so
day?
much. I am so excited to be here, Dr. Tammy. So excited.
You know, you've been doing this a long time. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned in your information that your work saved your own life. Can you give us some background about what brought you to this type of work?
Absolutely. I would be very happy to tell you. It's so interesting because people think that most people who teach or, speak or write books, had it easy or had it all together. And, I remember when I first started coaching in 1995, before I started coaching, I thought, who's going to listen to me? Because,
Mm.
because of my history, because of my past, which I'll share in just a minute, I thought there's nobody who would ever listen to me because my life didn't look like a role model. My life didn't look like one would want, right? My life wasn't something that people aspire to. And so I remember when one of my mentors said to me, well, you're gonna be a better coach than me. He was one of the first coaches in the world. There was like 5 coaches in the world in 1995, and he was one of them. And I didn't want to be a coach, but he would always tell me, Rhonda, you're going to be a better coach than me. And I'd look at him and say, like, yeah, right, that no, because my past sucks. And when I
Mm.
mean my past sucks is, I will just get to it, is when I was 14 years old, I had the horrific experience of watching my father murder my mother and commit suicide in front of me. And when you are the sole witness of your father murdering your mother and committing suicide in front of you, at 14 years old, I blamed myself, right? I blamed myself. It was my fault. I didn't kick his shins. I didn't grab the gun. I didn't jump in front of my mother. I did nothing heroic. And so for the next 20 years, I really didn't believe I had a right to be happy. I didn't deserve anything good, right? Even though I was a straight A student, I got a scholarship to college. On the outside, I'm sure most people can relate, on the outside, I looked great, right? And, you talk to some of my friends, unless they were really, perceptive, they would have been like, Rhonda's fine, because that's what I say, I'm fine. But really, what ended up happening is over the next 14 to 20 years, I had nightmares every night. Every night, my father was chasing me and killing me at night. I started to drink alcohol and got 3 DUIs. And then I tried to kill myself 3 times
Well,
because it's like, why be alive if there's no chance, right? If there's no chance for happiness. And you also, at the age of 14, I witnessed my father committing suicide, right? So suicide became like an acceptable form of escape, right?
Right.
So, and I think that, people forget that when you have people in your life or you see it on TV, it somehow can wiggle into your brain and make it okay if you think about doing that. Now, some people would never think about it. I make a joke always that suicide, I break a nail and I'm like, I'm going to kill myself, right? And I go backwards, right? Like suicide is not my last thing I think of. Suicide is the first thing I think of. And then I remind myself, like, do you want to kill yourself? No. Okay, right. And I know that I don't want to kill myself, but it's such a, I think suicide, alcoholism, those were my escapes to escape my pain, my guilt, my shame. Other people have other things they do, workaholic, right? Or procrastinate or get in bad relationship after bad relationship. So I just had a tendency to punish myself for 20 years.
Yeah, and numb it
Yeah.
and and trauma. Oh my gosh. I mean, that kind of trauma we know in medicine actually changes your
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
Like it changes the organ of the brain. So now how you think is completely different.
That's right.
So so what was the impetus? Like what happened? You hear everybody like they get to rock bottom or something happens to wake them up about the choice to fully live or
Yeah.
live fully.
Well,
What
it was my
happened?
third suicide attempt. During those years, I'm a really good student, right? So I did everything I thought would help me. I went to therapy. I did energy work. I did affirmations. I did inner child work. I did rebirthing, right? I did shamanism. Like you
Oh my
name
god.
it, I did it, right? I did
No
everything. And all of
no
those,
stone
no
unturned.
stone unturned, because I was like, I have to figure this out. Like I
Mm.
have to heal myself, right? I can't have these nightmares every night. I have to get beyond this, right? And I really tried everything I could think of, and they were all good tools. I love all that stuff. They were all great
Mhm.
tools, great techniques, but they never took away the feeling that I wasn't good enough. It never took away in the middle of the night, like, you're not, it's not worth, you're not worth, you're never going to thrive. You're never going to get over this. There's something wrong with you fundamentally. Because remember, I'm my father's daughter, right? I'm my father's daughter. So, I would sit there and be like, his blood runs through my veins. If he was that damaged to kill my mother, then that blood runs through my veins. So I was afraid of my emotions. I was afraid to get angry. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid of myself. And it was that third suicide attempt after, again, I've been doing everything right, workshops, you name it. It was that third suicide attempt that I realized I've got to figure out another way, because
Mm.
all the things that I was doing that were the right things to do were not shifting my perception of myself, were not shifting my thought patterns, were not shifting how I felt about myself in the world, were not shifting my perceptions, right? We're not shifting my filtering systems. And so I remember so vividly, Tammy, that I got home, after they let me out of the psychiatric ward, which, by the way, try to kill yourself 3 times if it's in a psychiatric ward for a few days to evaluate you. And they let me out, got to my apartment, told me I wasn't crazy. And I remember just entering my little studio apartment, just realizing that I have to find another way. And I remember the thought that went through me is I have to start over.
Mm.
And I decided, like, what do people do in kindergarten? And I said, well, they do stars in a calendar. So I went to the store, got a calendar, and got some gold stars. And for the next 30 days, I gave myself a star, and I still have that calendar, by the way. Um, I put a gold star next to anything that I did that was good, right? Anything that I did that was good, because you have to remember that, for me, thinking of killing myself was just like proof that I wasn't good, right? That there was something seriously wrong with me, that I was flawed. So keeping track of everything that I did was good. And now, mind you, these good things were like, got upset but didn't break a dish, right? You know,
Brushed my teeth.
right? Seriously, like, you know, um, you know, boyfriend didn't come over and didn't cry myself to sleep, right? Like just like little tiny things that when I read that calendar, like I said, it's in my office. When I read it, sometimes I think, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. oh my gosh, how scared she was, how alone she was, how frightened she was, how insecure she was, right? And
Yeah.
it was after that 30 days, I had a calendar filled with gold stars. And that was the moment, Tammy, that I realized I had hope, that I was worth saving. And I think for me, just taking the ownership rather than just repeating it like, oh, you're worth saving, like, okay, yes, I get everybody thinks that, but I have to believe it, right? I have to own it. So doing that calendar for 30 days really had me decide whether I was going to stay alive or die, whether I was going to thrive or survive, right? So when I finished that gold stars, I decided, and it's almost like embarrassing to say because I remember being so embarrassed that I was doing this, Tammy, but I decided I was going to make up my own exercises. So I started making up things, just like the gold stars, just like the calendar, things for me to do. And shockingly, who knew I was good at this? Shockingly, it started working. And people started noticing and they started asking me what I was doing. And you have to remember, Tammy, I did not take making up these exercises as some brilliant moment. I took making up these exercises. I was that screwed up, right? Like this was not a compliment, right? This was not like, oh, you're so creative. No, no. It's like you're so screwed up that you got to figure something else out because therapy doesn't work for you, or shaman work doesn't work for you, or energy work doesn't work for you. You're that screwed up. So when people started asking me, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell them what I was doing. And I remember a couple walking out of church, following me out to the parking lot. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing, nothing. I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing nothing, 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 nothing. And they're like, no, you're doing something. I'm like, no, what? And they basically just kept, nudging me. And I finally was like, okay, okay, well, I'm making up these exercises. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm just making up these exercises. And they go, give us one. And I'm like, oh my, again, I'm horrified, right? And so I'm like, they're going to come back next week and look at me like I'm crazy or stupid, right? Like I was like, oh, but they were insistent. So I gave them one. Okay. They came back the next week at church and says, it's working. Would you give us another one? And, and,
Yeah.
and that was the beginning of me realizing just the seed, because it wasn't many years until I actually started doing what I do today. But that was the seed, the first seed that planted, like, maybe this isn't just for me. And
Mm.
during that work, really what came up for me was this isn't belief systems. This isn't values. This isn't mental models per se. This isn't all the things that everyone talks about. This is, I believe, in order to truly, kind of take the root, right? And really learn to love yourself no matter what, to really accept yourself no matter what, you must have a relationship with your fear. And
Mm.
I didn't think I had any fear, Tammy. People say like, "Oh, you must have been very afraid." I'm like, I wasn't afraid at all. Okay, I grew up in Upper Michigan, Upper Minnesota. We didn't feel, right. We didn't feel. There was no feelings. There's no. I never said I'm afraid or I'm scared. I never admit that. So the fact that fear started coming up for me was kind of like, what? I'm not afraid. And I find that's true for so many people, Tammy. They don't even know they have fear. They don't even know they are afraid, right? They just berate themselves. They just put themselves down. They just blame themselves for procrastinating or being overwhelmed or, being anxious or being a perfectionist or being an imposter, right? All those things, they literally do a character assassination on themselves. And when I started understanding how fear worked from my own work on myself, etc., everything changed. I started seeing how fear is so tricky and invisible and insidious, and we don't actually know what fear is, right? We don't know that procrastination stems from fear. We don't know that, perfectionism stems from fear. We think those are all separate problems, right? I'm a perfectionist, I'm an imposter, I'm a failure, afraid of failure, right? We think those are all different things, but in actuality, those are just fear responses. So once I started understanding fear, everything changed.
Fear is the big imposter, isn't it? It has many, many faces,
That's right.
and then when something feels so bad, don't we have this knee-jerk reaction to like, "Okay, that's not good. I need to shove that away. I need to bury it. I need to throw it away like a hand grenade. I need to pretend it's not there. I mean, I think that you have an epiphany of the root of what's going on
Yes.
in everybody's life
Yes.
that isn't living joyously,
That's right. That's right.
because fear is so dang sneaky. And I
So
would
sneaky.
say that it's not, it doesn't have an age
No.
either.
No. No.
I think that the teens are struggling with fear. I think that the millennials are struggling with fear. I think every generation.
Well,
Maybe the kids that
we're
are learning to walk,
yeah, I
maybe
mean,
they are.
we are hardwired for fear. That's the whole point. Our brain is wired for fear. And,
Yeah,
our brain actually is wired. If we have a problem in the present, I have a problem right now in my life, right? Our brain is wired to look in the past for a solution in the present to create a different future. Okay. And you and I, and most of us know that's not how that's going to work, right? We're not going to get a different future by looking in the past for a solution. But what fear wants to do is to keep you alive, right? It wants to keep you alive. It doesn't care about you thriving, doesn't care at all, only cares about you surviving. And so it looks at your life and says, well, I'm keeping Tammy alive. I'm keeping Rhonda alive. I'm amazing. I just got to have her keep repeating these things because then she'll stay alive and this will be awesome. I've done my job, because fear does not care if you're happy. That's not its job. It doesn't care if you thrive. It doesn't care. It only cares that you are alive, and it does a good job. So when we don't know that, when we don't understand that, when we can't really see fear for what it is, we actually think that, like you said, that feeling of like, oh my God, I can't do that, right? Or, oh my God, I'm so anxious, or oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. We actually believe that's true. We actually believe that's true. And we actually believe that we're doing that. Like somehow it's our fault, right?
yeah.
But once we understand what I call the mechanism fear, once we understand what I call the wheel of fear and wheel of freedom, what happens for my clients and my students when they discover their wheel of fear, it's kind of like a light bulb goes on, and they're like, what? Wait a minute. You think, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You mean all the things I've been beating myself up for, blaming myself, shaming myself? You mean that's fear? I'm like, yes. And more importantly, when they see their wheel of fear, they can also see their wheel of freedom. And so there's a pathway out. And so when people understand how fear works for each of us, fear works for you and me the same, but differently, because yours is personalized to you and mine's personalized to me. Once we understand the mechanism, then it doesn't own us anymore. But most people, they don't know that. They don't know how it works, right? Because nobody talks about it. They just go, false evidence appearing real. It's like, okay, great, cliche, love that, but that doesn't help you when you're in the middle of a fight with your mate, right? Or, oh, we know neuroscience, amygdala. Okay, next time you're fighting with your husband, say, oh, my amygdala, and see how that helps your fight. It doesn't, right?
No, no,
So all this
no.
knowledge, right, it doesn't help us over the hard times, right? It doesn't help us when we're surviving. We actually have to shift our filtering system. We have to shift our perception. And neuroscience says the only way to truly change your life is to change your filtering system. You can change all the beliefs you want, but if you don't change your filtering system, good luck with that.
So it's fascinating because fear doesn't care
Doesn't care.
about if you're happy.
Nope.
Fear just wants you to
Yep.
survive, and you've survived so far, so you should keep doing the same thing. So even if you're implementing something new to help you, therapy, medication, exercise, dance, relationship, friends, social, painting, fear will tell you, "Oh, no, 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 no. You haven't done that before. And we're alive because you haven't done anything new before. So we're just going to make you
Doubt yourself.
be
Yeah.
afraid." And I believe that perhaps fear is intimately smart. So what my fear will say to me to get me to
Yep.
stop doing something that might break me out of my fear
That's right.
pattern will be different than
That's right. They're
you.
personalized.
Oh, I wish you can you see the goosebumps?
Well, that's the thing. People, it's very personal, right? It's very personal. So your wheel of fear and my
Yeah.
wheel of fear were formed by the time we're about five. right? And the wheel of
I
freedom,
know.
again, formed by the time we're 5. And the wheel of fear has served you well, right? We've all heard that, like, oh, the things that you did when you were a child, they served you well. And now, as we're an adult, they don't serve you well, right? Because now we have a mind, we have a heart, we have desires. When we're children, a lot of that stuff, it doesn't exist for most of us, right? We don't even, I mean, I don't ever remember having dreams or desires, right? I'm just eating my lunch and going to school, right? Like, I don't even have the,
You wanted to go, your desire was to go play on
yeah,
the swing, and it
or
happened.
not to make my mom or dad mad, right? Or to make it everything easy, right? And to protect myself, right? I wasn't thinking, because again, I don't have the brain structure to actually go beyond what I can go beyond when I'm 5, right? So our wheel of fear is formed by the time we're about 5. And the thing is that it stays with us for the rest of our lives. And so once you understand how your wheel of fear works, and yes, yours is personalized to you, mine's personalized to me. Because what I say is, fear is as smart as you are, as spiritual as you are, as
Mm.
knowledgeable as you are. Fear knows everything you know. So, I mean, think about it, Dr. Tammy. Do you know somebody who meditates an hour a day and is still a jerk? Yes, yes, we all do, right? Because meditation is a
Or
tool.
pastors in the
Right.
church, or
Right. We're all right. So, we think, we take a tool and we go, oh, if I meditate an hour a day, that's going to cure me. And again, really helpful, by the way. I love meditation. I meditate. I love meditation. But unless you really understand how your brain works, most people, meditation will not shift your perception of the world. It will not, it will make you more aware, make you more conscious. But sometimes that actually makes you beat yourself up more, because now you're more aware of how screwed up you are, right? So we want to actually change what we see. We want to change the filtering system. And so I always ask my clients and my students a question, is the world for you or against you? Now, Tammy, we all know the right answer, right? We all know what we should answer. Oh, the world is for me, right? We all know the right answer. And then I ask my students, okay, but if I looked at your life, if I looked at what you're thinking, if I look at what you're feeling, if I look at your responses to the world, would I see that the world is for you or against you? And they always go, against me. I go, yeah. So you want to believe the world's for you. You want to live as if it is, but fear is as smart as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, spiritual as you are, knows everything you know. So it's always one step ahead, and it's really smart.
and it keeps you repeating the same things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
just
if you ask
differently,
me that,
right? Just differently. And with a different face, a different name, a different intensity, right?
yeah.
So it just that's why people say, I always ask my, anytime I'm doing a keynote, I ask, how many people have repeated a problem? How many have a problem right now that they're repeated from the past? And they're all like, me. I go, yeah.
And it's not black and white. If you ask me, like, is the world for or against you? I would say the world is for me to up to a point, and you're only going to get that far.
Yeah.
After
Yep.
that, you don't belong.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
not
That's
that's
not
not
for
your
that's
playground.
not for you. That's not
That's
for
not
you.
for you.
Yeah.
Remember when you weren't picked on the team?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to think that all that stuff from childhood, I used to, okay, full confession. I used to say that psychologists and therapists and everybody in the counseling world, a in a certain group of type of counseling, would, if they can't find enough problems now, they'll just keep going further back to find them, and that this isn't helpful. They need to figure out the forward, like, let's make a plan. Because I was, like, always pushing, but those fear beliefs or fear tapes
Mhm.
or the programming was done back there. And I think that's part of why things like ketamine and psilocybin and ayahuasca and all of these that we're finding are helping people with PTSD and anxiety and depression. It actually takes off your parts of your brain, so to speak, so that you can tap in
Yeah, for
to
some
where
for
you
some
really
people,
belong.
I did ayahuasca and it was the worst experience of my life. And I remember sitting around, the campfire, right?
Nothing works for
Right, right,
everybody.
right. I remember sitting around the fire, and doing the ayahuasca, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm already connected to God. I don't need ayahuasca to connect to God. I already am connected, right? And ayahuasca actually was a disconnection for me. And right,
Mm.
there are things that work for everyone. Like I always say, the wheel of fear, wheel of freedom. We all have one, and some people don't want to. Some people do not want to have a relationship. They don't want to befriend their fear because, obviously my fundamental belief is, and I have hundreds of thousands of students that would say the same thing, is once you befriend your fear, it no longer owns you. But there are people that, don't
But
even
we
want to
don't
look
want
there.
to befriend people who are mean to us and
Nope,
keep us
nope,
unhappy.
but that's
And
not it.
just,
But that's not it. Befriending your fear has nothing to do with being nice to people who are mean to you, right?
no, no, I mean, like, our own fear is not nice to us. So to befriend our own fear is like, you have an aversion to leaning into discomfort,
Well,
and fear is
yes,
uncomfortable.
yes, and if you can decide, because it is a decision, that fear loves you and it's only trying to keep you safe, and you're in charge of re-educating it, you're in charge of letting it know you are safe. If you become the adult in the room and take back your heart, take back your brain, right, and take back your actions, your feelings, your thoughts, fear actually backs down really easily. And so what
Mm.
happens is, we have this like, I'm anxious, I can't do it, I don't want to deal with my fear, I don't want to feel judged, right? We do that. But this is the thing, we do it, we feel that way anyway. That's the joke, right? The joke is we feel that way anyway, right? So how do we feel loved? We feel loved when we are willing to accept ourselves more than wanting to be accepted by another. We feel loved when we're willing to cherish ourselves more than we want to be cherished by another. We love ourselves and accept ourselves more when we're devoted to our own process and to discover who we are more than we want to please another, right? So once we understand that fear is just actually really helping us and wants to do it, it just thinks you're still 5 years old. It still thinks you're 12 years old, right? I ask my students, like, okay, when you're in it, when you're in your stuff, how old do you become, right? They go 5, 12, 18, 16, 7, 2, right? They know, everybody knows what age they become when they are at their worst. Well, that age is where you have stunted emotionally, and fear is like, well, she can't take care of herself after this, so I gotta do it for her. But once you go fear, 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 I see you, I see you, I know you love me, I know you love me, I know you love me, I know you're not trying to hurt me, yeah, I know you love me. Well, I got this, fear, I got this, and they're gonna be like, fear's gonna be like, I don't know if you do. And you're going to be like, yeah, I got it. I know what to do now. Will of fear and will of freedom. Well, I don't know. And once you start, moving forward in the direction of your choice and your decisions, rather than be swayed or tricked by fear, the more fear actually kind of grows up with you. It kind of goes, she's got this. Oh,
Oh,
she can do. Okay,
that's
never
safe.
mind.
Oh, so now that's part of fear's armamentarium. We're
That's right.
good at this level.
That's
We
right.
didn't die.
That's right. That's right. So you're good. But you have to, most people think it's their thoughts that are stopping them or their feelings that are stopping them from moving forward, right? I'm afraid to be judged. I'm having this feeling. I'm having this thought. Really, for most of it's body sensations. It's our shaking. It's our stomach aches. It's our neck aches. It's I feel, like what most people call anxiety, right? Or a weight, right? And so our body is a huge barometer. And so our body sensations are the things that stop us, most of us, now for most of us, because some people are heavy feelings, heavy thoughts, but most of us are actually being stopped by body sensations. We don't want to feel that. We don't want to feel that worry. We don't want to feel that anxiety. We don't want to feel that guilt, right? The body responds like that. So once we understand that that's our bodies, kind of like a dog shaking, right? Most of us know now that during trauma, what does the body do? An animal, a child, adult, we shake. But we don't know that. Like, nobody ever taught us that. So here we are, right? Feeling anxious, feeling not like comfortable, starting to like have these thoughts, sweating a little bit. And we actually believe fears lie to us like, well, you better shut up now, you better not do anything, you should leave the room, you don't belong here, you can tell they don't like you, that you don't you're, oh my god, they're going to reject you right now, right? Like all of that. If you can, I always say, like, think of the wheel of freedom, what I call the wheel of freedom. It's literally got its hand out to you, and you literally just got to grab it. And when you grab it, it literally pulls you out of there. But because we're so afraid of the unknown, what's going to happen if I do A, B, or C? We're so petrified of uncertainty, we don't trust ourselves. We allow fear over and over and over and over and over again to decide our behavior, decide our feelings, decide our body sensations, make our decisions for us. And I know it's like a brain switch. That's why I created the wheel of fear and wheel of freedom. So it like literally goes, here's your wheel of fear and here's your wheel of freedom, right? Because you need for me at least, I needed something that I could see, a model that I could kind of grasp, right? And go, oh, okay. Right? Because again, I love neuroscience, but they don't tell you ABC, right? They tell you all this amazing stuff about your brain and body, which is awesome, but it doesn't bring it down to earth, right? It doesn't bring it down here where you and I are living every day.
Right. In the nausea and the sweating and the breathing in the upper lobes and not oxygenating and having the carbon dioxide get higher and higher and higher, which stimulates your amygdala even more. And yeah. So fear of the unknown is huge.
Yeah.
Do you know, I actually have a secret belief. It's not going to be secret because I'm going to share it now. that, that and I don't think that people do this consciously, and I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that it's part of healing from a disease. So I see a lot of people, who have diseases and diagnoses and conditions.
Yes.
We
Yes.
don't do it here in the United States anymore. Um, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
But I can almost tell that some people are unlikely to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, in my opinion, that they're fearful of who they are
Yes.
as a healthy person because they've been
Yes.
sick so long. They're
Yes.
fearful of what their relationships
That's right.
would
That's
be
right.
if they were capable. What
Yes.
would they do? What would they be? What would life so it's
How are
fear
they going
of
to
that
start over?
unknown.
What is it? Yeah. How are they going to start over?
Yes.
What are they going to do for work? I mean, if they've been sick and they haven't been able to work, I mean, just all these decisions. I mean, I
All
think
the unknown.
all the unknown. And I think about what we've gone through the last few years, you know, uh, with everything that we've been experiencing. And I get how some people are like, I'm out of here, right? I'm sick. I don't want to live in this world right now, right? I don't
Mhm.
want to figure out how to master this world, right? They're tired, right? They're tired. They're frustrated. They're heartbroken. They haven't found tools that support them. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I agree with you 100%. And then there's those other people like my friend Sandra, who did just pass away after three cancer. She had cancer remission for years, cancer came back, remission again. This third time, then I mean, she's somebody who did everything plus, right? She had a lot of reasons to stay alive, a lot of people who loved her, a lot of joy. She always was in joy. And, that doesn't mean that you're not going to die, right? Like she did everything, if you want to say right, right? Did everything,
Yeah.
quote unquote, right. And she wasn't afraid of the unknown, right? She wasn't afraid. But a lot of people, like you're saying, I agree with you 100%. Again, it's the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of people don't meditate, because that unknown space of no distraction and
Yes,
no input, and it's
yes,
just so much. So what do you do when you've decided to personally befriend your fear,
yes,
and you work with Rhonda so that you have
yes,
the freedom wheel tools,
yes,
but everybody around you
yes, That's right.
is still super
Yes.
committed, not only to their own fear and sharing it, I call it vomiting it everywhere, but they don't
Yes.
want you to change. They're your fear too.
That's
Nobody
right.
wants you to change, not even it's sometimes especially your friends.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's so amazing because this is one of the big things that people go through when they do fearless living, right? So they start doing the work and they, feel that freedom coming, right? They feel like they can breathe, right? They're feeling that thriving moving through their cells. They're feeling that passion and aliveness again. And the next thing they ask me is like, oh my God, I'm going to get divorced, or oh my God, my friends are going to leave me, or oh my God, my family's going to disown me. And it's like, maybe, maybe not, right? You
But
know,
that was the case otherwise as well.
yeah, it's the case otherwise as well. And it's kind of like you got to save yourself, right? You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself. And what
Yeah.
I've seen over and over again, and this is what I teach. I mean, one of the things you do when you work with me, and we do fearless living together, is I actually give you skills. I don't just give you the wheels and go, good luck with that, right? I'm a huge,
Bye.
yeah, bye, bye. I prepare you, right? I prepare you. We have something called fear busters and fear junkies. We go through your family system. We go through your friends. We go through your environment and see where they're a fear buster and fear junkie, where you're a fear buster and fear junkie. And then, of course, I give you tools like, okay, well, how do you deal with these people? What do you say? How do you speak? Because a lot of times it's they don't know what to say, right? They do not know what to communicate. They don't know how to put a boundary up. They don't know how to put a boundary up gracefully. They don't know how to forgive. They don't know how to, they don't know how to communicate. And
Yeah.
so we go through that, right? We go through that. So, I don't just give you your wheels and say bye-bye. I'm going to teach you about your feelings. I'm going to teach you about your needs and boundaries. And I'm going to give you exercise. As you know, I healed myself because of exercises I created for myself. Well, those exercises not only grown, like when I was on Starting Over for 3 years and I was on TV every day, I created over 1,800 exercises for my clients on Starting Over.
So
Every
when
TV,
somebody's fear tells them, "Oh, she won't have one for me," you're
oh,
like,
yeah.
"Alan, that's your fear. I
Yeah,
do."
I do. I mean, it's kind of, who knew? I didn't, my embarrassment coming up with those exercises in the beginning, who knew that it's really my superpower? I always tell people, you give me any problem you have, and I will come up with something that's so unique to you that you will be like, what? And it will shift you because I see you, right? I understand how fear works. I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. And so, there are so many tools so that, I've had people, okay, I'll give you a great example. There's this man who I think it was after Fearless Living came out, my first book, and I'm in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. And he comes to my book signing and, he's 6'2", whatever, probably in his 50s. And he comes up to me and he goes, Fearless Living has changed my life, and I'm like, yay, right? And he goes, my wife and I got divorced. And as I was doing Fearless Living, I thought to myself, what if, what if she knew Fearless Living? So he called her up and she started doing Fearless Living and they got remarried. I cannot tell you how many couples have told me we would not be married without Fearless Living because it gives them a framework, right? It gives them a language. It gives them a connection. It helps them work together, right?
Well,
Without
is
getting triggered.
it argument fear-based?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're just trying to be seen. We're just trying to get our needs met, right? And
Yeah.
most of us, I wasn't taught about needs. I didn't understand my feelings, right? I didn't know what was happening inside of me. I just felt like they were being a jerk. I didn't know because that's the other cool thing. I'm so glad you brought this up because one of the things that you find is that when you understand what your wheels are, the big benefit, not only understanding yourself, is you see everybody else's wheels.
Mm.
So all of a sudden you see your mate's wheels, you see your kids' wheels, you see your boss's wheels, you see your best friend's wheels. So then it's way easier to not take things personally. It's
And
way easier to talk to them.
love.
What? Go
And
ahead.
to approach it with love because
Yes.
they're just doing the
Yes.
best they can from their place of fear to keep themselves alive.
That's right. That's right. And if you can get that, one of our core principles here in Fearless Living is embracing innocence, seeing
Mm.
your own innocence and seeing another's. That is not easy. That is not easy. It's a great, like, embrace innocence, right? But to really do it, to really see your own innocence, to forgive
Mm.
yourself, to really let go of everything you've done in the past. I mean, that was the only way that I could be standing here in front of you today, is that, I forgave myself for not saving my mother. I forgave myself for not kicking my father in the shin. I forgave myself for my alcoholism. I forgave myself for my suicide attempts, right? I could see that, how I could see through I could see in the past how I was just running in fear. So, God love her, right? Like, I want to kiss that 14-year-old version of me and that 18-year-old version of me. I don't know how she stayed alive, but gosh darn it, she did. And so it's true for you too. You're 14, you're 16, you're 22, you're 28, you're 35, all kept you alive. So you
Yeah.
would have this moment in time to decide, to take back your life.
Oh my gosh, I feel so empowered. I am so excited for people. We have to shout this from the mountaintops that
Thank you.
no, there's so much suffering.
Yes,
And you
yes,
don't have to be that person who had
yes,
this big traumatic experience. I think there's
yes,
a whole bunch of like shame that I should be happy because I've had everything and yet I'm still
yes.
not happy.
That's
Like
right.
a lot of teens right now from privileged families are like, I have everything, yet
Yes,
I'm miserable. I
yes,
shouldn't be.
yes, yes.
Oh my gosh. I can
I've
see in our future running your work to our
mm,
community.
well,
It's
I would
so
love that.
thank you so much. I have a feeling that you will be getting another invitation because I think we just thought that to be on this podcast, we just hit the tip of the iceberg, didn't we? I'd love to know what these exercises
Yes.
are, but can you share with our listeners where they can find you?
Sure, fearlessliving.org. Fearlessliving.org. Go to fearlessliving.org
And
and
we'll
you
have
can
a link
find out,
there too.
yeah, and you'll see everything available to you, joining my community, or taking a course, or joining Fearless Conversations, or maybe even becoming a Fearless Living coach.
Yeah, well, like you, many people probably say, "Oh, no, not me," but you never know. If
You
you get
never
rid of your
know.
fear, that's
You
awesome.
know, I always say, just did you feel a little like, right? Like, did she say, what? Just that moment is aliveness, right?
Mm,
We want to start paying attention to our aliveness, our passion, right? That thing that goes, right? That just, even if it's like if it's just that little tiny one, what? Just a what? That is a sign. It's just saying, grab it, right? Grab it.
yeah.
So just be willing to embrace the truth of who you are. As we say in Fearless Living, live the life your soul intended,
Mm.
right? It's time for you to live the life your soul intended.
And
So
that
thank you,
little
Dr. Tammy.
and that little it reminds me of, a little power blink. You know,
Yeah.
when the
Yes.
power blinks, it's like a nanosecond, but it resets all the electrical in your house. Your
It,
coffee doesn't work anymore.
absolutely.
You want
Absolutely.
pay attention to that and
I,
get a hold of Rhonda.
yeah, yeah.
Minute self-love.
I always say, Tammy, if you have that, I go, just even if it's just like just a millisecond, I say, make that more real than anything else in your day.
Mm.
Make it more real. That moment is your truth, is your future, is that spark of life. So make that more real. Cherish it. Take care of it. Nurture it, because that will grow and grow and grow. And soon you'll be like, right? Thriving, right? That's what we want. We want you to be thriving because we know that's your true natural state.
Oh, beautiful. You are beautiful. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Tammy. Yes, you
sharing
are.
your brilliance, your love, your heart, your knowledge. And thank you, everybody, for sharing with us your most precious commodity, which is your time. I hope this blessed your life. And don't forget to share with those you love and have a beautiful day.